I would like to begin our treaty walk by acknowledging that we are situated on Treaty 4 territory, homeland of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We acknowledge the unfulfilled promises of the treaties, and we are committed to working together to honor the original intent of the treaties and work towards reconciliation. Our walk through the Royal Saskatchewan Museum was informed by Indigenous perspectives, and we are honored to learn from all the people who call this land home, and move forward in the spirit of Wetaskiwin. Before we begin our walk through the Royal Saskatchewan Museum, consider how these visualizations of the land offer us a glimpse into history, and how the museum allows us to envision the mosaic of identities that make up Treaty 4.
The museum was founded in 1906 as the Provincial Museum, just after Saskatchewan became its own province. Originally, it had a bunch of locations, but then settled on the current location near the Provincial Legislative Building. Before World War II, the current site was an abandoned hotel due to the economic conditions during the war. In 1953, construction began, and it was renamed the Saskatchewan Museum of Natural History. Though many Indigenous peoples served in World War II, their history and impact nurturing the natural environment of many different ecosystems here and now what is Saskatchewan was still not recognized in the museum, nor was the impact of the Métis culture on the diversity of Saskatchewan was acknowledged. To have Wawiyachitowan. Here in Treaty 4, all perspectives, histories, and science need to be respected just as much as the next. Pause here and reflect on the changes in the museum. If you have been, how has it changed? Is the museum representing Wawiyachitowan and Wetaskiwin in an impactful way? Can two perspectives with a common goal exist within the same historical context? In order to become the Royal Saskatchewan Museum, as we now know it, the museum gained recognition from Queen Elizabeth in 1993, giving her approval to become the one and only Royal Museum in the province. Along with this title and recognition came a coat of arms that included a caribou and a bison in its colonial badge of honor. The motto given with its emblem states, "Serving through stewardship." Ironic considering how the Crown's lack of effort in stewardship compared to the Indigenous people. The full truth, history, and Wawiyachitowan of Saskatchewan's lands and environment were not added to the museum until 1999, when the museum added the Indigenous history section. Throughout this section of the museum, you can feel a sense that the earth can survive without humans, but humans would suffer without proper Wetaskiwin and care for our natural world.
During our treaty walk to the museum, I found connections from Wiyotawima, the Divine Father. This reading talked about the First Nations people and how they have always had a spiritual connection to the earth and overall land itself, and its connection with the Creator. The idea of relationships, or Wawiyachitowan, is crucially important to First Nations. It was visible through the exhibits that we saw. One of the exhibits that stood out was the storyteller. The display explained that storytelling was the main way of how they taught life lessons about family, behaviors, connections to the natural world, and so on. This connects to the reading. It talks about how First Nation knowledge and teachings were passed down generationally just through relationships, without a written text. Another exhibit that was shown was the spirit of the people. The drum represents the connections between the spiritual world, identity, and cultural expression. Creator is represented in all ways of life for the Indigenous communities that live on Treaty 4. Cultural practices like drumming reflect that ongoing, never-ending relationship. The nature exhibits included the grassland plains and built upon the history of the land itself. The exhibit shows that the Saskatchewan landscape has changed over time, but has always supported life. The Indigenous people were mindful of this and took care of the land by means of resourcefulness. using everything around them to make tools, find food, and make shelter.
Before we begin, I invite you to pause and reflect on where you are. What relationships do you have with the land? As we walk on this space, I want you all to appreciate the rich history of the land, culture, its bond to the people, and the sacredness of the promises in the treaties. This museum reminds us of our relationship to the land and to one another. The Tipi camp in the Indigenous Gallery tells us the story of Wetaskiwin living together. It shows Cree and Nakota people coexisting harmoniously, teaching what treaty relationships were meant to be. Their cohabitation reflects Miyowisetowin, keeping good relation, and Pimasiowin, living responsibly and maintaining balance. This is what Dwayne Donald called ethical relationality, an ecological understanding of organic connectivity, reminding us we live through relationship with others. Reflecting on the lesson from the Tipi camp, how can you demonstrate good relation to your colleague in the class? As we come to the T-Rex fossil, we are reminded that life existed here long before us. This reflects Tapwewin, where truth is approached with care and responsibility. It reminds us that our relationship with the land did not begin with us. Like the fossil, treaties connect past, present, and future, calling us to live responsibly as long as the sun shines, the grass grows, and the rivers flow. Pause and consider how this changes your understanding of your place in treaty relationships. The bison display also reflects this truth. The near extinction of the bison tells us a difficult story that must be acknowledged. Facing this truth helps us understand how relationships between indigenous people, the land, and others were disrupted. The bison almost disappeared. What is one small way we can help take care of the world today? Finally, all that we see here speak to Ms. Kawonwi, understanding who we are in relation to the treaty. The land, fossil, winter camp, and bison are not just displays, but reminders of our responsibility. They are witnesses to Kichi Usotumatowin, sacred promises made not only between people, but with the Creator, binding relationships that are not to be broken. We are all part of this relationship. How can you live with us today by being a person who keeps their promises to the land and to each other?
Michihoan is an integral component of traditional First Nations doctrines, laws, principles, values, and teachings regarding the sources of life, the responsibilities associated with them, including those elements seen as necessary for enhancing the spiritual components of life and those associated with making a living. Making a living on the land is about more than just earning money. It encompasses every aspect of a good life. This includes education, recreation, community building, working, and more. The land is the most important aspect of making a living and using the gifts given by the Creator, in both a physical and spiritual sense. Pause here and think about how the museum has depicted Indigenous peoples making a living on the land. How many different parts of the land are being used? How do you and your family make a living on the land? In what ways is the land most important to your life? As we interact with and use the land, we also have to allow space for the land to interact with us. Our interactions with the land and the other people and beings that are on it must be reciprocal. Living reciprocity, or Wawuchiatoan, means that all interactions between living beings should be mutually beneficial. In proper treaty relationships, the negotiations should be based upon sharing and mutual respect in regards to all aspects of life and land. This is not how the negotiations of the numbered treaties really went. Think about one way that the treaties have affected you and your family. Was this beneficial to you? Discuss with a friend. How can you make an agreement amongst yourselves that is mutually beneficial to both of you? How does the land play into this agreement? Thank you for listening and coming on this treaty walk with us.